All right, great. Could you guys see my screen fine? You guys can give me, okay, cool.
Yeah,
Cool,
looks good.
great. And you guys can hear me fine?
Yep.
Great. Yeah, okay, cool. So welcome to Jumpstart. This is a 2-week program. And the key thing here is to get you prepared for the App Academy application process, mainly to try to get you up to speed to be prepared to take the coding assessment. I don't know what your guys' background is, but we'll get to it in a bit. But let me go ahead and I'll introduce myself first. My name is Tree. I didn't have a coding background before I went through the App Academy curriculum. I was in digital marketing for 5 years, and then I was in corporate America for 4 years before that. I made the jump last July. I finished in November, and I currently work as a software engineer for a company called Prompt. I mainly do. I'm currently doing front end development, but eventually I'll do some back end as well, and then we'll see what happens from there. Cool. So why Jumpstart, right? The real reason is to get a sense of like what App Academy would kind of be like. Oh, we have another one. Hi, Maria. I don't have you on our attendance sheet, but I'll just add you right now. Maria. Maria, are you a part of the Slack group on, I guess, on Slack?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
Are you in the Slack group called 2021-816 PST?
You know, honestly, I don't know.
Okay, sure thing. Ooh, okay. I'll is your last name Townsend?
My last name is Brookshire.
Berkshire. Okay, I'll
Yeah.
just go ahead and I'll add you here. Berkshire. Okay. And you are in the right cohort, right? You're not were you supposed to be in the East Coast one at all? Oh, okay, I see.
Yeah.
Yeah, yep. Okay, I see you here. Cool. So I'm gonna move you over to the West Coast one. Doesn't really matter which one you go to.
It's just this one works out better because I have my kids running around during the day.
Perfect. Yeah, not an issue at all. So I'll make sure and I'll add you here. Yeah, so I can see that you are in our Slack. So that's perfect. Cool. So let me continue. So yeah, so App Academy, the point of App Academy is so that you can get a sense of what the point of Jumpstart is so that you can get a sense of what App Academy life is like. I'm gonna go ahead and mute you guys, somebody really quick. Okay, there you go. Oh, okay, I can't mute. Yeah, okay, thank you. Yeah, yeah, and one of my favorite things is when people go through this curriculum and they have never coded a line of code in in their life, and then they somehow find a way to get into App Academy, and then pass it all and go on to get a job. It's it feels really good, because it's kind of a big step when you make a career change, or let's say you decide to take this. Cool. So another reason why Jumpstart is good, I guess, is you get to meet people that share the same interests. Um, uh, a big part of the coding, I guess, what is the word I'm looking for? Community is, we do share a lot of like code, and we do like to talk about code all the time. Just because technology moves so fast, and you just have to just always be on the go, right? So you are here, you're meeting people with the same um, interest. Um, and well, you also get to hang out with me. And you get a free retake for your technical interview if you go through the whole Jumpstart curriculum. Attendance does matter, and so I don't know if it actually affects this right here, but attendance, they do take into consideration your attendance to Jumpstart when you do apply. I'm gonna skip the about us. Logistics. Yeah, so we start every day at 6:30 Pacific Standard Time. It says that we will go till 9. Most likely we won't go till 9. You're looking at 7:30 or 8, and then I'll be online for an extra hour or so for you to ask any questions that you might have, or you can leave early and you get a jump start on the next day. Don't worry about these last two right here. This is when we used to do it in person, but the pandemic and all, and so we can't do that. And yeah, so if you have any questions, use the Slack. And everybody here is on this on the Slack channel, I can see. So cool. So what does a day normally look like? We'll usually go over the homework problems. I won't go through all of them, but what we like to do is we like to pick maybe like 3 or 4 of the key ones, and then we make sure that you understand those, because those are the ones that we feel like you need to know in order to keep progressing as a software engineer. Then we go into lecture, and then after lecture we will I usually take a short little break right after going over the between 1 and 2, and then we'll do a lecture, and then depending on how the day goes, week 2 you definitely do pair programming, week 1 not so much, but a normal day at App Academy, this is what it looks like. And then we can get more into it later on in the week. Yeah, so week 1, right? What are the keys? There are 5 concepts that we would like you to understand by the time you get to week 2. And these might not mean much to you now, but hopefully I do a good job and you get a good idea of what they do mean. Data types, conditionals, methods, loops, and arrays. Again, right now they just might be words, but hopefully you'll understand what these are. some of the topics that we will go over in week 2 are more advanced type of concepts like enumerables, nested loops, and hashes. And then we will also teach you how to, there are some steps that we do teach you to go over when you're trying to problem solve. The one thing that I do like the most about App Academy is they pride themselves on being able to communicate your code. And so that's kind of like what sets App Academy apart from the rest of the boot camps. And I'm not saying that like biasly, it's just what people that I've worked with and stuff. People from App Academy have been able to talk code a little bit better than other people that have come through other boot camps. Cool. And then at the end of week 2, you'll also see what a interview is like as well. Okay, cool. So here are some important dates. Week 1, day 5. So this Friday, you will get your first assessment. And don't get scared when we say assessment. This first assessment is just for you to know where you are at that time. Kind of just for you to get a feel for what you need to work on. These assessments, they don't go against you in any way, shape, or form. It's just for you to know what you need to work on. On Monday, you will take a coding challenge. And this will be very similar to what it would be like when you do take the App Academy coding challenge, or even when you're in the job hunt and you're taking like a coding challenge for to get yourself set up for an interview. The next Thursday, you'll see what an interview will actually look like. And then week 2, day 5 is another assessment that also does not go against you, but this one's a lot tougher and it gives you a better idea of where you should be before you can feel good about testing into App Academy. Cool. Yeah, so this is my favorite slide. You get out of Jumpstart what you put into it. And that also goes with the App Academy curriculum as well. Every concept is very tough, especially if you don't have a coding background. And so the more time you put into it, just the more you will start to understand it. It is okay that you don't get it at first, because I did not know what a string was when I first started to code. But regardless, like I just got more reps in, and as I saw it more, I just started to understand what things were as I just practiced more. So your success will require practice and review outside of class. And then you feel free to reach out to any of the TAs for assistance. Keep in mind that we are here to help. This is why we do this. I myself, I don't need to do this. I have a full-time job. So, but I enjoy this because, you know, it really, it's really nice to see people get into App Academy and then get through it and then land, you know, a very nice paying job, and just for me to feel like, oh, I was a part of that, you know. So we are here to help, so feel free to ask us any questions that you would like pertaining to App Academy and code. And then also engage in the lecture. I will tell you to, you know, like leave a message in chat. That will be good enough. You know, I'm not looking for you to, shout out or whatever the case. Just that will be enough. Also feel free to chat with each other if like you come across like a concept that you don't understand. Maybe one of your peers might understand it better than you do. And secondarily, if you're able to explain the concept to somebody that doesn't know it, then that means that you're probably in good shape as well. So it goes both ways. Any questions so far? You guys can put a N in the chat for no, yes, or just put a question. Put a yes or your question in the chat if you do. Perfect. Cool. So I just like to do this like super quick, just so that I don't feel like I'm talking to like nobody, like talking to a wall. So we'll just do this really quick. Just there's only three of you guys. I will just do just a quick little icebreaker with these 5 questions, and I will start it off. We'll just do name, location, coding experience, job, and what you like to do for fun. My name is Tree. I'm located in Los Angeles. I had no coding experience prior to Jumpstart last July. I am currently employed, and I like to I watch a lot of sports, and I'm training for a marathon. Let's go with Abigail first. So if you want to unmute and just answer these 5 questions, and if you're not okay with it, it's fine too. You could just say next.
Okay. Hi, I'm Abby. I live in San Francisco. I have some coding experience already. I know a little bit of the basics of like HTML and CSS. I've taken just a few classes online.
Nice.
I am a project manager for a small construction company, and in my free time, I like to ride my bike and read.
Nice. Thank you for sharing. Yeah. HTML CSS is it's not one of my favorite things, but it does make things look nice. How about we go with Nathan next?
Oh, it's Naeem. Sorry.
Oh, okay. Naeem. Yeah.
My name is Naeem. I am located in New York City, Queens, New York. I have no coding experience whatsoever. Currently, I hold a job at Bloomingdale's. I'm a retail manager, and my hobby is playing basketball, and I love music and fashion.
Oh, nice. Well, welcome. What made you make the switch, or what brought you here?
I have a lot of friends in tech, and I always had an interest in it, but I never had the confidence to kind of dive into it. So I thought, I've been kind of putting it off for too long, and I should kind of look into it. And one thing led to another, and over time, I decided that, I do see myself in the tech world, and yeah, here I am.
Yep. Well, welcome. Hopefully I can teach you, like the basics, and then it's up to you from there. So, yep, cool. Very, very, very nice to meet you. And then Maria.
Okay, so my name's Maria. I live in South Carolina. I have no previous coding experience. I messed around a little bit with the app called Grasshopper. It's supposed to show you how to do some programming, but I think it's Python.
Okay.
Currently, I'm unemployed. I had my second child back in December, and before I had her, I was actually a technical writer at my previous job. And my
Nice.
hobby is just I like to draw.
Okay. Cool. Yeah. Well, congrats on your kid. And welcome.
Thanks.
Yep. Cool. Okay. So let's jump right into it. And don't worry about taking notes. I'll take the notes, or I will share the notes inside the Slack. So feel free to take notes if you want, but you don't necessarily have to. Let me pull up my notes on the side here real quick. Cool. So first and foremost, before I start any of this, what we are in right now is called an IDE. And what IDE stands for is it's an integrated development environment. And what an IDE allows me to do is to write code and run code accordingly. Sometimes it shows up, sometimes it doesn't. So if you notice here, I have week 1, day 1, data types and variables. If I click run, it does nothing, right? If you can see this on the right side right here, this is called the console. And so whenever you run code, it usually shows up in your console, or it can. And so let's just say if I did like hello, right? I run it. You would think that something would show up, but it actually doesn't. What I would have to do is I would need to tell the IDE to print it out in order for something to show up in the console. This actually won't work, but what I can do is I can turn this into a string, and we'll talk about why after. But the way that you have something show up, like hello right here, in Ruby, because this class is going to be taught in Ruby, is you can do something called puts, and I will get more into it in a little bit. But essentially, there's 3 ways to print out data, and right now this is a data, right? We could do puts, p, or print. They all do something a little bit different, and we'll go into it a little bit more, but I just wanted to show you guys this before we start. Run it, you'll see they all look a little different, they all act a little different, and I will go into what like why that is. But so week 1, day 1, data types, variables. So what are data types? So data types are, let me copy and paste. Data types are pieces of information that we will be using here in Ruby, but really in any language. And there are 3 main distinct types of data types that we will be using, right? The first being, I moved from like PC to Mac, and sometimes I use the Control Shift, sometimes I use the Apples. Don't mind me. The first one is are numbers. Your numbers are all integers, positive or negative, or decimal numbers. Like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, -1, 1.5, and so on. secondly, we have something called strings. Strings are, it's basically any phrase or sequence of characters that are between quotes. So like I had mentioned before, I did something like hello. And this would be considered a string because it's just in between quotes. Right. The third one is Booleans, and Booleans are essentially a fancy word for true or false. But the key distinction is they can never be both true and false. It's either true or false. Cool. And I have a little side note here. If you notice here, I have like these little hashtags. These hashtags mean that code is commented out, if I can spell. And what commented out code does is it tells you not to run the code. It tells Ruby not to run the code. To comment lines, just select all the lines you want, and you can press command and backslash for Mac, or control and backslash for Windows. Cool. So for instance, let's go into some examples. So if I scroll down here, why don't we take the number 5 here? Right. Let's just use this number 5. Like, I've showed you this does nothing, right? I run the code, it does nothing. Why? But in order for us to want to see it, as I had mentioned before, we actually have to use one of those 3 words that I mentioned. And for the sake of this course, we are going to use puts and p. I never use print. It's very rare. So if you can see here, if I put now, what happens? A number shows up right there, right? So a number shows up. A number is being displayed in the console. Right. And so if I do like put hello world, which is a string, as you can imagine, it does the same thing. It puts hello world there. Okay. And you can even like put true or put false. So we have a number, string, and Booleans. And as you can see, 5, hello world, true and false. Any questions there? Yeah, and so for the sake of this course, you'll probably use puts most of the time. Cool. And so let's go into like things we can do with a number, right? In Ruby, we can do any of the arithmetic operations, meaning addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, and something called a modulo, which is denoted by this like percent sign. I will get into what that is after, but let's jump into some examples. Let's do this right here. I may ask for some participation. Feel free to just put it in the chat, right? So if I put 1 plus 1, right? What do we expect here? 2, obviously, right? You don't need to be a math whiz to figure that out, right? So if I put -5 plus 3, as you can imagine, this would be a -2, as you can see right here. All right. But what happens when I do put 2.5 plus 0.5? As you can imagine, this will be a 3.0. If I put 10 minus 8, this will be 2, and so forth. This will be 25. But I'm gonna stop at this last one here. So I'll just show you guys, just to prove to you guys that 5 times 5 is actually 25. And but this last one, 5 divided by 2, what do you guys expect this to come out to? $2.5 to, okay. Yeah, well, let's give it a run. 2, unless it was 2.0. Oh, okay. It is indeed 2. So important thing here is that we do something called a floor, and so whenever a number is divided by 2, like when there's a remainder or there is a decimal, then it gets rounded down to the nearest whole number, unless you do something, right? So I'm gonna just put this as 2. We are getting a whole number here because we're using whole numbers in our calculation. So instead, if I did put 5 divided by 2.0, right? Now, if I do this, this comes out to 2.5. Because what we're doing is, now that we have a decimal number in the equation, Ruby knows that we want a decimal number in our solution or in our result. So we get a decimal number here now, since one of our numbers in our calculation is a decimal number. Any questions there? Cool. Notice how I still haven't gone over this little modulo thing yet, but we will get there. So Ruby does follow regular order of operations, which is PEMDAS, parentheses, exponents, multiplication, division, addition, subtraction. So for instance, let's get these 2 examples. Let's do this first one first. 6 plus 4 divided by 2. What we expect is the 4 divided by 2 to run first, which is a 2. Then 6 plus 2 would be 8, right? So we're expecting 8 here. If I run, we get the 8. Likewise here, if I run it like this, you're expecting the 6 plus 4 first divided by 2. So 10 divided by 2, you would expect a 5 here. Like so. Okay, cool. Simple enough. I swear it's not, I don't do a lot of math, if any at all, but just basic math is probably good enough. In case you're like worried that coding can get it's super, like mathy. It can be, but not always the case. Okay, cool. So what's this like modulo thing, right? So essentially what it is it gives us the remainder of a division. And so what do I mean by that? Let's go over some examples. Right, and so so if I do 11 modulo 5, and I will use the word mod instead of having to say modulo. So if I take 11 modulo 5, do you guys have any idea what this comes out to? Yes, exactly. So if I run this, essentially what's happening here is 5 can go into 11 two times. Two times 5 is 10, and then there's like 1 left over. Right. And then so if I run this next one, the remainder will be 2. Right. If I run this next one, 13 mod 5, the remainder will be 3. 14 mod 5, the remainder should be 4. So if I just run those really quick, what you'll see is 1, 2, 3, 4. Right. But if I go to this next one right here, you guys know what this will evaluate to on line 58? Yes, exactly. There are no remainders when 15 is divisible by 5, divided by 5, right? And so the way that I like to read this is 5 is 15 mod 5, which is 15 evenly divisible by 5, right? And if it's a 0, then that means it's yes, right? And so what you'll notice here is that if I run put 16 mod 5, what you'll see is this actually goes back to 1, right? And so there's a pattern here that's very important, right? Our remainder will never be larger than the divisor, ever. It just can't. So our remainder will never be greater than the divisor. It will keep cycling through from 0 up to, but not including this divisor, which is 5. Or whatever is on the right-hand side of the modulo operator, right? So if I go 17, it's just a remainder of 2, 18 is a remainder of 3, 19 is a remainder of 4, then 20 is a remainder of 0, then 21 mod 5 would just go back to 1. Any questions there? Cool. All right. Cool. Let's go on to our next concept. We have something called comparison operators. And essentially what comparison operators are is we get a Boolean value for an expression. Or I guess in layman's terms, we get Booleans in return for our comparisons, right? For instance, I'll give you these examples here, or what they can look like. You'll see this double equals. This just means is equal to. Bang equal, which means is not equal to. What this bang operator is, it just means not. You guys already probably know these next four. Less than, greater than, less than or equal to, greater than or equal to. All right, so let's kind of see it in action. I have these examples here. Cool. So so if I run line 73, if I put out the evaluation between 5 double equals 5, how this reads is 5 equal to 5, right? And so what are we expecting here? We're expecting a true, right? And if I run it, let me comment out this code really quick. And I run it again. True. So now the next one is, well, let's put out the evaluation of is 3 is equal to 5, right? This should be false because 3 is not 5. See here, you'll see a false. Now, if I run this one right here, puts 5 is not equal to 5, we should be expecting false, right? True, false, false. Puts 3 is not equal to 5. This should be true. And then let's just do these 4 really quick, right? 25 is greater than 20. This is true. 7 is less than 11. This is this is true. 100 is greater than or equal to 100. This is true. 200 is less than or equal to 300. This is true. So if I go ahead and I run these, true, false, false, true, 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 true. Yeah, cool. Let's do so if I put like 7 is less than 7, if I run this should be false, right? Should be puts, as you can see, false right here. Cool. The reason why I put this here is because when later on you run loops, and this concept is kind of important. It's very basic, but it's also very, very important. Cool. So those are simple enough. But what happens when we do like multi-part expressions? Multi-part expressions. Yeah, I'll go ahead and I'll do this. Cool. All right. Let's walk through this one. By the way, do you guys know the answer to this? Yep. True. So smart, so smart. You guys are already coders. Okay, cool. So, okay, but let's break it down, right? What exactly happened? Step 1, what we did was we evaluate something on the left first, right? The left being the left of the double equal sign. So essentially what you could kind of see this as because we're using a comparison operator, the comparison operator being the double equal sign, right? That means that we are comparing 2 sides of the comparison operator, or 2 sides of the comparison. Right, and so what we do actually is we evaluate step 1 first, right? So 8 mod 2 is actually evaluates to 0. And if you don't believe me, let's just do that real quick. Zero, right? And then what that does is we're now checking if 0 is equal to 0, which is true. Right. So this turned into 0, then if 0 equals to 0, that is true. Cool. Not very difficult, but a key concept. So booleans, you can sometimes just simply just print them out as well. For instance, if I put true or I put false, they will print out in the console true or false, right? You can also use operations on a boolean. For instance, we can use the bang operator, which I touched upon, right? And what does the bang operator do? As I mentioned before, this flips the state of the boolean. So essentially, it's just a not or the opposite of the boolean. So a bang true is evaluated to false, and a bang false is evaluated to true. Let's go ahead and see that in action. So if I go ahead and I run these, let's make sure to comment these out. As you can see, this is now false, and this is true. All right, cool. Not very difficult, but very important. Another operator that we use often, very often, is the AND operator. And what is the AND operator? The AND operator is denoted as this like double ampersand. And whenever we use the AND operator, both sides of the AND operator needs to be true in order for the whole statement or expression to evaluate to true. Yeah. So if I, for instance, if I put true and true, right? You would expect this to be true. Right. If I use the other combinations, if I do put true and false, this is going to evaluate to false because the right side is false. If I put false and true, this evaluates to false because the left side has a false. And then, of course, if I put false and false, it's going to be false. So the key concept here is the only time that the AND operator evaluates to true is both expressions on either side, well, I guess both expressions on both sides of the AND operator evaluates to true. This is the only time that is true right here, true and true. Sort of the opposite, we have something called the OR operator. And we'll just go over how that works really quick. So the OR operator is denoted as this, we call them pipes, but it's essentially these double bars. It's essentially the, it's like the, I always forget if this is a forward slash or a backslash. I think it's a backslash because it's leaning back. I don't know. I still don't know. And I've been doing this for a little bit of time. But it's like those double bars. So it's shift and that backslash. I'll just call it a backslash. Shift plus the backslash to get the bar. And so whenever we're using the OR operator, only one side of the operator needs to be true in order for the entire statement to be true. So I'll just go over this one by one. All right. So so if I put true or true, this is going to evaluate to true. Let's do this. Let's put true or false. Right. This is going to evaluate to true. Because at least one side is true. If I put false or true, this also evaluates to true. Again, because one side is true. And then if I put false or false, this evaluates to false because neither side is true. Right. So the key concept here is the OR operator, the only time it's false is when both sides are false. And the AND operator, right? The only time it's true is when both sides are true. That's the key takeaway there. And you'll see why that's important once you start to go into some of the exercises. Cool. We only have a little bit more. Let's go over strings, a new concept, strings. What are strings? Strings are, as I mentioned, a sequence of characters denoted in between quotes. I have a special note here that we need both ends to be consistent, whether it's double quotes or single quotes. So the quotes need to match. And I'll just give you an example here. So if I put hello world with the double quotes on both sides, this will actually print it out. Then if I do hello world with a double quote on the left side and a single quote on the right side, this will give us an error. It's like, hey, unterminated string meets end of a file because it hasn't found the other double quote yet. So it will yell at you. And then of course you can use the single quotes on both sides. So which one should you use? In Ruby, it's best convention to use double quote. So don't even think about it, just use double quotes. Keep it simple. Cool. So as I mentioned before, there are 3 ways to print out this to display information in the console or the terminal. The one that we've been using is puts. And puts will remove the quotes and then it will add a new line at the end, right? And if I use print, for instance, if I print hello world, Ruby also removes the quotes, but it does not add a new line. I will show you really quick. With this, with adding this last one. So if I P, but if I use P, what you'll see is I didn't have that extra line, right? Because print doesn't add that new line. And then if you notice, I use P and you see that there are these quotes here. So so with P, it doesn't format to display in the console. So in other words, it gives you your data in its most raw form. I don't ever use print. I only use puts and P. So we could just like puts. Do you need to use quotes when you use P? Not necessarily. It just depends what you need to P out or print out. So I'm just gonna add another line to show you that there's an extra line. Yep, cool. It's the extra line. Oh, yeah. Because it's after the print. That's actually not what I wanted to show. I wanted to show the difference. So if I did like puts here, what you'll see is it actually breaks out the way that you want it to, right? So I would say never use print, because why use print when you use puts? Because you'll get like weird formatting like this. But for instance, like you said that you want like, did we need to use quotes for P? For instance, I could print out a number, right? And as you can see, the 5 is there. But you can also do like P, the string 5. Right, and these two are two completely different things, just so you know. The number 5 and string 5, it is not equal to each other. Like for instance, if I did 5, string 5, this is gonna return false because they are not the same thing. Any questions there? I'll just leave this here. Okay. So the key takeaway in this section, use puts and P. Don't use print. Cool. All right, next concept. Sometimes, so we're gonna go into like some like kind of like manipulation of strings. Sometimes we want to get the length of a string, right? So how do you get the length of a string? We use a dot length. So say for instance, if we put hello world dot length, actually that's kind of long though. Let's just do hello with an exclamation point. That should be 6 characters, right? So if I run this, we have 6 6 characters. And also remember what the string, like it could be anything. I might have just screwed myself because let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. And spaces actually count as well. So this should return 4, 8, 12. Yeah, 12. So the spaces count as a part of length. It takes up a space inside a string. What else can we do with a string? We can index into a string, and essentially what is indexing? It's basically like a position where it's a position inside the string, but the position starts at position 0, and I'll show you what I mean. So whenever we want to access a character inside a string, we index into it, and indices start at 0. Right. And so how do we denote an index? We use square brackets with the index value on the inside. And what do I mean by that? So if I say puts hello at index 0, if I go ahead and I run this, it will give me H. And just so you know, that's actually a string. So if you wanted to see what it actually is, what data type, just use P. But we'll go ahead and we'll just use puts in this case. So this will give you H. Let's copy this a couple times. Do like 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's do one more, 5. Now, remember that indices start at 0. That's why indices 0 is H, right? It doesn't start at 1, right? And so what does 1 evaluate to? 1 evaluates to E. At indices 2, it should evaluate to the first L. Let's give it a shot. Right, and so forth. If I do this. This should give you the second L. And this should give you the O, right? So if I go ahead and run it, cool. And like I said, if you guys want to see that it was a string, just use P instead. But what happens if I do this last one? Puts at hello 5. Do you guys have any idea what it would come out to? Almost, very close. So I'm just gonna go ahead and run this. Maybe 0, 0, 0. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and run this. You're right. It's a blank, right? What this actually is let's go ahead and print it out. It's actually nil, right? So what is nil? So sometimes you'll see a blank space and you're just like, hey, wait a minute. I feel like something needs to be printed out. I want to see it. Let me just use P instead. So that's why I use P here. And what it is a nil. And what is nil? Nil is the equivalent of nothing. It means it's telling us that we are trying to access something that's just not there. And similarly, okay, what, any questions here before I move on to the next concept? Cool. Similarly, we can negative index into a string. Okay, and what that means is that we just start at the end of the string, right? And what do I mean by that is, for instance, if I put hello -1, we start at the end and it gives me the O. Right, like you would think that it's like -0 because we start at the 0 on this side, but -0 also makes 0 sense, right? Like, when is a 0 a negative number? So just to show you as well, it's still a string. And so this right here is a key concept. Anytime you use a -1, that gives you the last character of a string. It doesn't matter how long the string is. It can be, let's just do like put, I don't know, this. And if I just throw like a -1 there, I should get this U. And indeed, I get that U, right? Cool. So no matter, let me just add that no matter the size of the string, if we index into a -1, if we index into it at -1, we will always get the last character, like so. And so if I do the rest of this, if you can see here, I run index at -2, hello at index negative, the string hello index at -2. It will give us the L right here, the second L for -3, the E for -4, and the H for -5. Right. So which begs the question, well, what happens if I do -6? Yeah, let's do this. I'll comment these out. If I run this, you can see there's that blank space again. And if I just use P instead, what you'll see is nil. Yep. And why is it nil? It is nil because there's nothing in that space at -6, right? Because if we're 0 is -1 and L is -2. The other L is -3, the E is -4, the H is -5, and then there's like nothing before that H. Well, there's a double quotes, but that doesn't count. Cool. All right, what else can we do with strings? We work with strings every day. We do something called, we also can do something called concatenation. And essentially what concatenation is it's a fancy word for the addition. So string concatenation, just like how we are able to add numbers together, we can add strings together. We are essentially combining any number of strings together. For instance, let's do the hello world example. If I do puts the string hello plus the string world, what we get is maybe not quite what you expected. We got the hello world, but it's all one word, right? So to create the space, there's a couple ways to do it. Right, to create the space, we can add it before the W or after the O. It's kind of up to you, and I will add a third way as well. So in this, we add it before the W, if you can see right here, and if I run it, hello world, and if I run this example on line 163, it's after the space is after the O, right? And just to show you that these are strings, we'll use P, right? You see the quotes. But there's one more way that we can do it. It's puts hello plus a space by itself plus world. All right, and this will give you the same thing. In real life, you'll probably see this the most. This third example. And any questions there before we go into variables? Well, there's probably about another 5 or 10 minutes. Hang in there. Cool. So variables, what are they? Why are they useful? So variables acts as a container that stores data inside that for us to use at a later point. Every time we want to reference the variable, we just want to use its name. Essentially, what this means is that we are storing something in memory. And what that thing is, it's totally up to you. The way that we denote what a variable is in Ruby is we use the equal sign. So the equal sign is the assignment operator, which lets us assign a value to a variable, right? For instance, it lets us assign a value to a variable, not the other way around, right? For instance, if I do a location equals SF. All right, let's do San Fran. San Fran. I'm assigning the value of the string San Fran to the variable location, right? So let me say that again. I'm assigning the value of the string San Fran to the variable location, not the other way around. So how do I access this variable? Well, it's pretty simple, right? Whenever we want to use it, we just use its name. So if I just do puts location, what you'll see is San Fran, right? And also you can see the type, the data type as well, San Fran. And so because this is a string, we can do string things to it. Like, oh, here, sorry, let me add this really quick so you guys have it in your notes. Fran. So if I do like puts location plus is the best, what you would expect is San Fran is the best, right? San Fran is the best. And this is a string. Also, if you wanted to access something in the variable, you can also index into it as well. So if I did like, if I wanted to access the F, it would be 0, 1, 2, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, right? And now I have to put. And that will give me the F. Cool. Any questions there? Yeah, so a variable is just a data stored in memory. So more examples of a variable, when we write variables that are multi-worded, we use underscores, also known as snake casing, for our naming convention. What I mean by that is, we'll use this example here. When it comes to naming variables, we want to keep it semantic what they're naming. By that, what I mean is to give it like a meaningful name that illustrates what it is. Like, for instance, my number equals 42. And in this case, I use the number, so I could do like number things to it. If I want to access that variable called my num, I would just do puts my num. If I wanted to add, let's say, let's add 8 to it, I would do puts my num plus 8. And just to show you that it's a number and not a string, I'll use P on this last one right here, and it's still 50. Cool. But what happens, so I'm gonna leave these actually commented in. But what happens when I run puts my num, then add puts my num plus 8, and then puts my num again? Do you guys have any idea of what this line 183 evaluates to? Maria and Naeem, do you guys want to guess? Okay. Yep. And indeed, it is 42. And the reason we get 42 is because we actually did an addition on line 182, but we never reassigned it. We never reassigned the variable. So that's actually line 182. So we get 442 again because we did the addition on line 182, but we never reassigned the value back to the variable. So the value will remain the same. So if we wanted to change the value, then we need to reassign it. All right. And what do I mean by that? So if I did my num equals my num equals my num plus 8, then I put my num. Now it has been reassigned to 50. Reassign to 50. So now every time you access it now, it's 50. Notice as well, you don't always want to write my num equals my num plus 8 or my num equals, it's just so repetitive. And so there's actually a shorthand into writing this. We can do something with this syntax here, using plus equals. For instance, if I did and I comment this out, my num plus 8, and then if I put my num, it's 50. Now, well, you're wondering, wait a minute, right? I just did my num equals my num plus 8. You just told me to reassign to 50. So don't you think this should have been 58? Right? It would be 58 if I had this here. But because it was commented out, Ruby runs from top to bottom. So because this code is not readable because it's commented out, it's not added into the evaluation. It is not it's not read by the IDE. So this is 50. And this is the shorthand. Cool. And so there's also like a shorthand for like subtraction, multiplication, division, and modulo as well. And the shorthand is available for all the other arithmetic operations like so. I won't go into examples. And then the last concept is just another side note. another example of how we use variables. We can use them in multi-part expressions, and the is equal to comparison operators. For instance, I'll do this. If we did, let me comment out these though before it messes up. Right, so the number and then is even num mod 2 equals 0. And so if I put is even, what do you guys expect this to come out to? Oh yeah. Let me just go over this last concept and then you can ask me the question. Do you guys know what line 202 would evaluate to? Ah, nice. Okay. Yes, this evaluates to true. Because we have the variable num that equals to 12. Then we throw the 12 in here because we're running this, I guess you would call it like a method. And we would do 12 mod 2 is equal to 0. 12 mod 2 actually equals to 0, is 0 double equals to 0. Cool. And these are the steps. Right. All right. I know today was a little bit longer because we had the introductions and stuff, but what was your question, Abby? Or does anybody have any questions before we end the day? So any negative num is best to check the end of the strings rather than using string.length. Okay. There's different use cases. Okay. So the best way to explain this, so it's right here, right? So say you have a string equals hello. Whenever you want to access the last item of the string, it is better to use the negative num, right? So if I did like put a string of, you'll probably usually use like -1 or -2. For the most part, you probably won't ever do more than like -2, right? Let's just do like A, B, C, D, E, F, G. And so you'll get the G, right? String.length. So what does string.length do, right? So if I do string.length, so if I put string.length, this will give us the length of this. Right. So notice that it is 7, right? So if I did puts string at index 7, that will give us a blank. In order to access the last item or the last character in the string, it would have to be actually string.length -1. So there's two ways to access the last item, the last character of a string. It's either puts string -1 or string.length -1. Those are the two ways. Which way is better? Preference. I always use string.length for loops. In real life, I kind of don't really index into objects or whatever. It's really only to use for I guess arrays, which you can use. There's other ways to do it too, but just know that if you want to access the last character of a string, there's two ways to do it. Which way it's better, it's up to you. This is the easier way, though this is easy as well. You just got to understand what's happening here. This is more code. Not by much, but there's more code. Cool. Awesome. Cool. You guys did it. You guys got through the first day. Hopefully you guys learned something. I know that these fundamentals are really they're really just boring, but they are important and they are the foundations, like the foundation of it's basically your foundation. Once you understand these concepts, you'll understand code a lot better. Work through week 1, day 1 exercises as much as you can, as well as week 1, and start to watch the videos for week 1, day 2. And if you have time, I would also do the week 1, day 1 videos again as well, because the more you watch it, the more you listen, the more you'll begin to understand it. As far as and then for tomorrow, we will begin class with the first couple of questions. If you have any dying questions about the exercises for tonight, just let me know. We could go over them. But what we'll do tomorrow is we'll go over a few questions and then we'll go into lecture. Same thing as today. As always, if you have any questions, feel free to send me a Slack. Other than that, do you guys have any questions? If not, have a good rest of your night. Thanks, guys. Have a good rest of your night, and I'll be here. See ya. Bye.